All right. So we're in the techniques and exercises, and we're going to read receiving today. So this is at page 180. And if you have the book and you notice that in the techniques and exercises, there's a significant amount of space given to the work of receiving. And then we go right to breathing exercises. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about why there isn't a generosity component of this, why we're just talking about receiving. But the one thing in terms of contextualizing this section as an exercise in the practice is that in the fourth hub, a lot of the interruption results in feelings of separation and isolation, and specifically that this is the hub of connection and belonging. And yes, like one of the things I hear people like sort of saying in like affirmations and things is like, you are loved. And I think for someone who doesn't feel loved, that can make things worse. And so the receiving part here is, instead of this notion of like you are loved and that being it's kind of like whatever, like the notion of like love as sort of a undefined thing, and being like you are this, I think in some cases could be particularly challenging and even activating when we're talking about probably dynamics and relationships where we aren't loved and we wish we were. So in the practice of receiving, what we're doing is we're focusing on connection, and we are focusing on belonging through bringing our attention to the fact that we are always connected and we do always belong to the world. And in that receiving, that we are being, it's like we are being loved by the world. And I'm going to read from the section and then I'm going to talk a little bit to it. But this is about bringing our attention, because I think one of the things about feeling isolation and separateness is that it creates a very specific disorienting overwhelm. And what we're doing here in this practice is bringing ourselves back in to our awareness of how much we receive, and that being the evidence of love. Like, and I guess love is like a word that I kind of avoid here throughout the fourth hub, because it kind of means everything and nothing kind of word, and it's connected to something so important. So the emphasis on getting more granular about like what the the functional components are of this, and it's grounding it too. So actually, here we go. So one of the things is like, I can see, a dissenting point of view being like, well, to ground this stuff in like the functional components is, like whatever the criticism would be. But the thing is when it's too ephemeral, it's like it's like tapping into it when it has to be poetry, when it has to be, spoken in the terms that can like be sort of accessed through like moments of art and expression. The thing is that it's like we have to stay in that practice in a very particular way where we like tee it up and have to expose ourselves to kind of these larger notions versus like practical applications where we're looking at kind of what the grounded components are of it so we can get access to this relatively quickly to tune ourselves back into the sensation of being connected and belonging and being in a network of care, which is, the like anti-separateness. Like separateness is kind of, if you think of what the antithesis of the fourth hub is it's separateness. And receiving is part of linking ourselves back in to this network and realizing, and this is probably going a little bit ahead of this, but realizing, like, even when we're reading a book or listening to a song or like taking in any type of content that especially if it's like constructive, positive, or like artistically derived, that's an offering to realize, like, if anything you create is created in the hopes of it being received and enjoyed and understood and seen, and that by receiving even these things you're participating in a union. And we'll get more into this as we get into the upper hubs about the this kind of this interaction of creation and validation and like seeing and being seen and creating and being like that sense of a continuation of that. So I'm here doing this as an act of love for myself. And I mean, I could just theoretically just be talking to myself and not doing this and having it recorded. But, I think of you when I'm doing this and not knowing exactly who you are, but thinking of your heart and thinking of who's going to resonate with this is going to be somebody that I love. Yeah. So this is an act of love that I offer. Like, this is an offering. This is an offering. Yeah. So I'm going to read a little bit and then I'll talk a little bit about it and then we'll wrap it up. So receiving. So if you feel lonely and have a specific idea of the kind of attention you want to receive, before looking for the specific version of care and attention you desire, take an inventory of the care that already surrounds you. A kind face on your commute, a coworker who genuinely asks about your weekend, or even people you know online who can bring good vibes into your life. We do this inventory to produce feelings that actively spark gratitude. Next, think of all the people who have helped you throughout your life. Family members, neighbors, teachers, friends, bosses, and colleagues. Include the love of pets and animals. Take 5 minutes and mentally walk through your day. Write down the names of people who help and care for you. At first, this may go a little slow, but with time, it will gather momentum. This is an exercise in receiving, not an exercise in appreciating. As you write down the names, bask in the glow of all the people who have loved and continue to love and appreciate you. Yeah. I mean, even going as far as the people that you don't see, the people who prepare your food if you eat in a restaurant, the server who brings it to you, realizing that, the person who maintains your water supply, who works on your electricity, the person who delivers your packages, the person at the grocery store who stocks the shelves. You're passing somebody on the street and they smile at you. This is the network that you belong in. And these are all acts, and the thing is, and so the hunger may be great. The hunger may be for and being chosen and absorbed and cared for in this very particular way that is kind of reconciling maybe a lack from previous times. But what we're doing here is just tuning our frequency into the fact that we are surrounded by people. And we can even there's a thing where you can go as far as all the nice things you have and all that, but I really for this, I want to really focus on the fourth hub aspect of connection with other beings. Yeah, take the time. One of the exercises I did while I was working on the book that's kind of alludes to what I'm talking about here is I just wrote an exhaustive list where I went through as much as I could remember in my life of people from different grades and different stages and little moments of people doing something really wonderful for me that shifted my life. There's all these if you look back, there's always small acts of kindness that for the person maybe wasn't a huge act, but they put in a little bit of effort that nudged something in a positive direction. And just tuning into that, because in separateness and isolation, we're kind of tuned out of the frequency of that. So in this, we're tuning back in. Even plants, even plants. Let's keep reading. There's it's probably going to be reiterated. So then think of all the places where you've felt good. Groups of friends, so-called happy places, maybe a class you took in which the students were especially excellent, a dorm you lived in, a team you worked with, a vacation spot, or a beach or mountain where you've spent time and felt great. Now close your eyes and breathe and feel all that love, even for the places that no longer exist, especially those. And remember how they felt before there was any sadness for their loss, and soften. Receiving is recovering from loss and trusting that the same good feelings can exist again. Therefore, as counterintuitive as this will seem, we practice receiving on the exhale to release into the trust that eventually there will be more, and we receive life as it is now, where the inhale will return and fill us up again. That's to do with, on the exhale, the emptiness. So when we're evaluating our breath and which side of it is more or less comfortable, this is where we're noticing that the exhale, to fully exhale, be able to exist in that spot of emptiness, is a physical somatic practice around trust. So if you feel unsettled about your career, make a list of your accomplishments, not just job performance as measured by employers, but what you're personally proud of, and take a moment to soak them in. We cut off reception and experience deficiency when we focus on what we need to be, on how much further we must go, or on other people we perceive to be more successful than us. Receiving your accomplishments is part of owning your narrative. Building momentum with any practice or habit involves getting increasingly better at it. When we feel good about something, we want to do more of it. Favoring our inner criticism and blocking receptivity for appreciation is a fallacy about success that will hold us back from our potential. Yeah, so favoring inner criticism. Like the idea that's like push yourself and you're like, hey, like little whatever. Yeah. That's, like, pretty popular, the idea that it's, like, the drill sergeant kind of idea that it's, like, you get the best out of just, like, driving somebody past their limit to get them to see what they're capable of kinda thing. Um, yeah, which honestly, it's like, who's seen that be sustainable? Who's seen that work? Oh my god, it's so ridiculous. Oh, I mean, there's something you said for, like, kind of riding your edge and moving yourself forward, but it's also externalizing your power is, like, when there's too much of a thing that somebody else pushed us forward. Something to think about. Mhm. That's a real depth of trust, and I will also say that, um, like, in receiving yourself in this, part of the receiving yourself is to take this reconciliation of, like, kind of like, whoa, like, extraordinariness of your own actions, of your own overcoming really difficult circumstances, and really feeling how that emanated from you. You've survived really impossible things, how you've created things, how you've made things work in the most, like, unfathomable situations, your own overcoming of adversity, and that's, like, receiving yourself and being, like, in awe. Find that, find that. Allow that. Yeah. I mean, some of this also, let's see where we this goes. I wanna like, part of like, some of this is receiving, and probably one of the biggest parts is receiving yourself, um And even if it's like you can't cognitively do it just now, just like opening yourself up to the possibility of it, of like, I'm ready to like breathing into this and like feeling that, where it's like, because this is part of the adoration and cherishing part of loving yourself, is adoring yourself, is adoring those stories of yourself. Like when maybe you stood up for something, or you did something really kind for somebody against like the popular consensus, or you created something really incredible, or I mean, just opening yourself up to that, because this is also about seeing the truth about yourself. But it's also like more than that, it's just like being kind of like, oh my, like kind of smitten with yourself, you know? So, the purpose of taking an inventory is not to moralize gratitude. If you haven't learned to experience the sensation of receiving without hypervigilance, if we haven't learned the experience of receiving sensation, or the sensation of receiving without hypervigilance, we won't feel it. So the hypervigilance comes from either not trusting or feeling the pressure to be polite and show appreciation before the gratitude is felt. Yeah, like that kind of thing where you receive something, there's automatically the first kind of like arising sense is an obligation to return the serve instead of being able to like really bask in the reception, which is like, if you really get into it, I mean, that's such an inside thing because that isn't when someone's giving you something, um, they want you like the satisfaction in that for the most part, the majority is that is like your enjoyment and appreciation of it. And if it's like an immediate thing of like trying to like balance this, because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not worthy of this, or I need to like kind of square this circle or whatever the thing is, kind of takes away from the gift, like, and also the experiences, is so you get people who like really don't like getting things because they're like, because the pressure that it causes, the no gifts crowd. So, um, and for children who are given a mountain of presents and rip through them only to ask what comes next, they will likely grow to be good at taking but struggle with the satisfaction of receiving. The feeling of receiving involves softening, allowing, and even savoring. And from this, gratitude naturally follows. Yeah, it's like gratitude's naturally arising. Like the thing of like forcing the cognitive function of reception, because receiving, we're talking about like the feeling of like, 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 and then the gratitude sort of the like comes just, it's just naturally flowing. It's like, feel that, like, feel like, wow, wow, oh my gosh. Whoa. Like, so if you're not developing the feeling that comes before the intellectualization of gratitude, it doesn't matter how much you're given. Either you won't let it in, or you'll require so much that people will become exhausted trying to spark the slightest feeling as they love and support you. Giving is fantastic, but we can't give our way to feeling love. We need to feel the reception of love and to cultivate the sensation of experience, to experience greater levels of connection. So in our chest and if our chest and diaphragm are tight, taking in a deep breath will require discharging, releasing, and relaxing to make space so we can open them. That's not really well written. It's that is more that is going to have to like, we're going to have to discharge the muscular tension. And I think we'll be talking about that in a bit before, like, to make the space for that. So the greater your sense of need, the emptier and more painful it will feel if your container, in this case your lungs and diaphragm, is obstructed or constricted. And breath work is a very effective antidote. And breathing exercises are what come next. So get ready. So in the next reading, we will do some breathing. And if you're following along the book, it's on page 181. But I think that's going to be it for now. Thanks for coming along. Again, this is my offering. I'm sending you so much love and appreciation, and I'll see you next time. All right, bye.